Hi, this is a lesson on how to accelerate projects in the case you need acceleration. So, a few points that are crucial when accelerating a project require leadership, process management, decision making, communication, proper organization and planning, reading the issue, properly analyzing it, and understanding what exactly is the root of the problem, team building, commitment to work, making sure people are there on time, making sure that they're doing their work, and diplomacy at the end of the day. Diplomacy, let's start off with that, is important because we need to make sure that the relations between people are healthy and somewhat strong and full of quality. So there's diplomacy. And then commitment to work, very crucial, especially when we want to accelerate a project, making sure everyone's doing the work, not just hard work, but working smart as well.
Easy work.
Or Iggy work. Team building, that's important because we want to make sure that everyone's doing their job properly and we're not having overlaps. If we have person A and person B working on the same thing, when only one person is needed to work on that task, we're wasting our manpower. So making sure that we have people doing the right thing and making sure that the communications between people is strong, which we're going to come on to later on. Reading the issue, as I said, analyzing it properly, making sure that we have to look at the details and also at the bigger idea of what the problem is. Organizing and planning, which has to do a lot, which is a lot done by your group leaders, which would be your CBT leaders. So let's say the problem in designing is regarding, okay, what type of mechanisms should we use? Organizing and planning would help you come up with the idea as a team and brainstorm what mechanisms are out there and which one is best for the situation at hand. Communication, something also very crucial, especially relating to team building and to diplomacy. Communication is something which will help you essentially come over tasks, avoid conflict, and also keep misunderstandings away. Process management, also done by your team leader. Now, I'm going to actually highlight both of these out right now. So, organizing and planning and process management both should be done by your team leader. And process management talks about making sure that we have a step-by-step process of what happens first, second, third, and so on. So if you have two steps coinciding with each other, which one is more important? Of course, we would use the critical path at that time, but understanding which one has priority and which task should be done in which order. And finally, leadership, also done by your team leader. And leadership is not just all done by your team leader, but you yourself can also show leadership within the class as well, or the club, by essentially just doing your work on time, or just volunteering to do something on your own, and just being the odd man out and just saying that, hey, I'm actually willing to do this task for the club or for the team. So if we want someone to help us out with, let's say, creating a robot cart, if one of you could help us out with creating that and show leadership, that'd be great. So, and that also essentially will help us out when we come for elections next year. So your leadership now may come in value when we're looking at people to lead the club next year. So that's just a list of things that is needed for accelerating projects. Now, two essential tools that are also very much important when we're accelerating a project is behavior and the tools you have. Out of the tools you have, if you want to accelerate a project, we have to make sure that everything's done through a shortcut. There's already an outline done, created for us beforehand, and all we have to do is just fill in the blanks. So, looking at tools, one of the really, I'd say, quickest way of accelerating a project would be having templates. So let's say logistics, this is an example, has the problem. They want to accelerate the rate they order parts. So creating a template for ordering parts list, and creating a template for a letter that they have to write to the admin of the school for asking whether we can order these parts or not. So these are all very helpful when we're talking about accelerating a project. So in the case where we have to order parts, templates would be helpful. And there are many other cases where templates would be helpful as well. Methodologies, another one. This is technically just having ideas that come into mind at the right time. So it's technically like a proof. You use SAS or you use the triangle inequality theorems when they're applicable or needed. So methodologies, an example of methodologies would be, okay, do we use group thinking or group decision making now, or do we make decisions by the authority? So, or do we want to have something done by one person or a group of people? Those are just methodologies that will help us out. And also organizational theories are methodologies as well. So for example, critical path, that's a methodology. Risk mitigation, these are methodologies. These are the different theories that we go over in class are all methodologies that will help you accelerate your projects. Techniques. Everything is not done in a certain way, but yes, sometimes that certain way can get to you from point A to point B quicker, and that's what techniques do. Techniques can be something that's a skill. It could, for example, in SolidWorks, when we're designing, the skill of understanding the software of SolidWorks helps us out, which moves us to our fourth rule to tools, which is software. Software helps us out so much. The fact that the leaders have a Google timeline, a Google Docs timeline, helps us out so much because we know what to do at what time, which day, how many days we have to do that task if we have a task at hand, and eventually helps us map out the time we have left versus the time we've already spent. So that's just a small overview of tools. And the second important tool, other than just these four tools that we have here, is behavior. Behavior is important because making sure that we have people in our team that are willing to learn, that are willing to step ahead and show that I want to do something for our team, that type of behavior will help us accelerate our projects. So if I have a person saying that, hey, I don't really want to work today, I got 5 tests and tomorrow and I have to study. Well, yeah, that's great, but that behavior won't accelerate your project. In fact, you're just going to end up, what's going to happen is just you're going to end up sitting in that one spot, in the same place where your project was in the first place. Whereas if you have a behavior of working harder and finishing the project off, so then you can study for those 5 tests tomorrow or the week after, that behavior will just not only help you, but will also help the team as well. In general, these are all just tools and different elements that are essential for accelerating a project. But one thing that's important is remembering the basic outline of how to finish or just how to organize a project. There's 4 stages to a project. There's the initiation phase, there's the planning phase, execution, and closing. Many people think closing is not as essential, but actually closing helps us understand what we've done and helps us reflect on what we've done so that we can do better in the future. Initiation, obviously important because it gets the ball moving. So people are trying to figure out what's going on, how are we going to do this. The stage of initiation basically helps everyone understand what the problem is, identifying the problem. Planning is, after identification of the problem, is coming up with a solution. Execution is executing that solution. And closing, as I said, helps us reflect on the solution that we've implemented. So at the end of the day, you know how you did as a team. So a small overview of accelerating projects.